This is the basic fundamentals of PRINCE2 processes. By this point in time, you should have already have a good understanding of what we mean when we talk about processes. You should know the name of the processes, you should know the functions of the processes, you should know how they fit within a stage, and so on. So by now, I presume you should have that understanding. So these are the basic fundamentals that I want to talk about. The first one is this. There are 7 processes in PRINCE2. Do be mindful of that. And we know what those are: the SU, the DP, the IP, the managing stage boundary, the controlling stage, the managing pro delivery, the closing project process. We know by now that each process serves a distinct purpose. There's a purpose to it. I think I used the example of, if you're in a house, each room within your house serves a purpose. You have your bedroom, you have your bathroom, you have your kitchen. And by understanding the purpose of that room, you know what type of furnishing you need to put in there. If you understand the purpose of the process, you can easily understand what roles, tools, and documents will be needed to fulfill the purpose. Processes can be integrated within a stage, but they're not the same as a stage. So we told you earlier on that if this is the stage is the length of time from one to the other. The processes forms their own set of activities within that stage. So that's why within a stage, you can have initiating a project process as well as managing stage boundaries. So 2 different processes within that stage that serves their own functions. If you can have multiple processes within a stage, so I explained that. A stage represents the length of time from start of the stage to the stage boundary. You need a minimum of 2 stages to fit all the 7 processes. We explained this earlier, that basically in order for you to fit all seven processes, you need at least 2 stages. And we know that startup is not in a stage, it is part of pre-project. So this will be your first one, startup. You're directing a project process, you're initiating a project process, you're managing stage boundary, you're controlling a stage, you're managing pro delivery, and finally, you're closing a project process. So within 2 stages, you will always be able to fit all the 7 processes. And this goes back to that principle of managing stage boundary, managed by stages. So managed by stages, there's no PRINCE2 project that ends in 1 stage. So that's basically, and remember, there are no maximum number of stages. So you can always have a lot of subsequent stages, and your closing a project process will always happen as the last process in the last stage. So it's not a separate stage, it's a last process in the last stage. So that's that. In terms of applying tailoring, basically, here are some of the things you should keep into account when considering these activities. So you have your internal to the project, you have your external to the project. Some of the things you need to consider that are external is organizational context, the culture, the policy. You have to consider sustainability, commercial context, delivery method you want to use, the life cycle model. We talked about using the hybrid model or the other ones, the project scale and complexity. So things you can tailor. You can tailor it to your sector, to your culture, to sustainability, the method of doing it. You can apply different delivery method, different level of complexity, and of course, the project-specific arrangement document, such as project initiation document. With all your management approach, you can tailor those. Your project plan, your stage plan, and your team plan. So depending on how you want to use it, you can tailor those accordingly. So let's talk about tailoring for a simple 2-stage process, 2-stage project. Some of the things you can do, and do bear this in mind, some of the things you can potentially do is you can have project directive by email. So initiation project instruction are communicated through email, providing necessary authorization to start the project. As long as there's a form of traceability to indicate how the project was authorized, who was authorized it, and you have some sort of paper trail, that's okay. Simplify project initiation document. So a straightforward document outlining the project essence, such as its goals, scope, approach, without complex detail will do. A unified log. So instead of a single register is maintained to track things like risk, issues, lessons learned throughout the project. You can have oral updates, like verbal update for things like your check-in meetings, keeping the teams informed and aligned. And you can have minimized planning documents. This process is simplified by not requiring detailed stage plan. So work packages, team plan, end of stage assessment, or formal report on issue. So you can minimize things. So those are some of the good tailorings you can have for this. Now we've reached the end of this particular module. So we're going to do a little recap. What you've learned. By now, you should know, or you should have a good definition of the traits of a project. So you have a good understanding of what a project is. You have a characteristics of a PRINCE2 project. So you should be able to define what a project is. A temporary organization that is designed to deliver business product according to an agreed business case. You know the 5 characteristics of PRINCE2 projects. So things like, it's temporary, it's unique, it brings change, and so on. You should understand the advantages. So PRINCE2 advantages and key features. What are good about PRINCE2? You should now know the function of a project manager, what it is that you as a project manager should be doing in terms of planning, delegating, monitoring, and all those other stuff. You should have a good understanding of the 7 aspects of project performances. Again, let me remind you, these are just tolerances, things like time, cost, quality, benefits, sustainability, risk, and so on, scope. You should understand the guiding principles, PRINCE2 guiding principles. There are 7 of them. Things like learn from experience, define, managed by stages, managed by exceptions, defined roles, responsibility, and relationships, focus on products. So you should have a good understanding of that. You should know the composition of PRINCE2 framework. So how does it work when we look at the elements of PRINCE2, basically in terms of the principles, the processes, the practices, the people, and the tailoring elements. So what makes up PRINCE2? Let's define PRINCE2. What are the things about PRINCE2 that makes you say, look, if you could do all of that, you're doing PRINCE2. You should an outline of PRINCE2 process module. By now, you should be able to draw a PRINCE2 process module, understands what goes where and why those things are there. You should understand the roles in the user-supply environment. So who's a user, who's a supplier. So PRINCE2 is based on the concept of user-supply environment. So the user says, this is what I want. The supplier basically provides that to the user. And adapting PRINCE2 for different projects. So we talked a little about tailoring in terms of how we can fit all the 7 processes within 2 stages. What are the things we can do in terms of tailoring, in terms of plan? So we talked about that as well. So you should have a good understanding of that. If you're not sure about any of this, feel free to go back to your to the lecture notes or go back to the video and rewatch it again. But these are the things we've covered in this particular section.